Hi, Olympia.
All righty. So I've shared the meeting link. We'll see if people join. It's a bit different, so we might be confusing people since it's not a LinkedIn Live like normal. We've decided to bring people into Zoom. So we'll see. I think eventually, yeah, everyone will find their way.
Yes, I'm trying to check. Okay, people are finding their way.
Yeah.
Hi, Anna.
Hey. Hey.
Hello.
I know the picture looked different. I knew
Yes.
it.
From my blonde times, I need to replace it. Yeah.
Good. Welcome, Anna.
Hey.
Let's see.
You are somewhere where it's obviously summer.
Yes.
Both of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has it not come to Vilnius yet?
Now it's +18 and it's raining. So yeah.
No, we're getting in London, we're getting another heat wave. It starts today. It's already very hot.
I don't know what is better.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Olympia, where are you? You are in Berlin, aren't you?
Hello, I'm based in Germany, in Leipzig.
Oh, Leipzig. Yeah.
Well, we are we're in sync, Olympia, in terms of clothes.
Oh yeah, how cool.
I didn't get the memo.
Yeah. It's funny. Today, I think Olga, this is the only time often when Olga and I have calls, we find that we've accidentally coordinated our outfits and we say, oh, we both got the memo that there is a certain color for the day.
Right.
Yeah, shall we start?
Shall
and
we
then
start?
if other people come, we can let them in.
Yeah.
Also, they can watch the replay. We know that we're all busy and all going all about. I don't know if both of you happen to know anything about sponsorship. I didn't really know this concept for a while. I knew easily about mentorship, but sponsorship is quite different and but as equally important, I think, as mentorship.
Yeah. And just to kick off, we wanted to ask, and since there are two of you, we're not going to be typing today. We are going to be talking. There's going to be a conversation.
If you want, no pressure.
No pressure. Yes, no pressure. Sorry, Olympia, we made you go on video. I know you wanted to hide away in the beginning. Well, first of all, let's make sure that everyone knows everyone, because I know Anya and Olympia. Susan, haven't met Anna, have you?
No.
Susan and I are both coaches, and we decided to set up this series of talks just to get together and discuss issues that are important, we believe, for women. And we come up with topics whenever they come, what our clients come up with, and so on. This particular topic was brought up by the book we were reading in my book club. Forget a mentor, find a sponsor. And we so enjoyed the book club that we thought, okay, we're going to bring it to the live session. So here we are. And maybe just for Anna's sake, Susan, maybe you want to say a couple of words about yourself.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, as Olga said, I'm also a coach, but I really focus on people that want to change their career. So I'm focusing on career coaching, but people primarily who say, all right, I've done this for, 15, 20 years. I'm ready for something different. I just want to shake things up. So this is primarily who I work with and coach with. And I'm always excited like Olga said, we partner to cover different topics because I found that Olga and I are usually really aligned, that we're both really passionate about coaching and supporting women, and we have similar ideas. So we said, why don't we just every month cover topics to discuss this? So yeah.
So that's
Oh.
what we're doing. So to kick off, we thought we were going to ask you a question. Have you ever spoken up for someone in the corporate environment, or has anyone spoken up for you in the corporate environment? Would you remember situations like this?
I personally have spoken for others and had others speak for me. In fact, any job I got, I think it was because somebody said, look at her. We know her, we like her, we've worked with her. So any job shift or kind of switching from one organization to another, it was because somebody knew me. I still had to go through sort of competitive process, but this kind of knowing me was important. But it's also because my background is in human rights and in human rights in Belarus, and so it's you often have to really know a person and trust a person to be able to hire that person because of all the kind of political KGB infiltration and stuff like that. So that is part of it, but also because, well, cold sales never worked for me. And so I myself have spoken for others when I believed in people, and I would just say, oh, pay attention to this person, to that person. And yeah.
That's beautiful, Anna, and you've given so many little points that we're going to come back to when we'll be talking about mentorship and sponsorship. Olympia, what about you?
I don't have some big glorious moments of speaking for someone, but I remember small instances of praising someone or defending their decision or their behavior because I had more context. But on the flip side, I had someone, I once applied for a big fancy job and I thought I had to do it all by myself. And I found out later that my mentor advocated for me, and she was also a bit disappointed that I didn't ask her to advocate for me.
Exactly. And this is when mentorship goes into sponsorship. That's a perfect example of someone that is taking it to the next level. They're not just advising you or being supportive. They're actually going a step further and going and saying, this person is great. This person you need to hire, or you need this person on your team. So what a nice example.
That's a super good segue, and again, since we have two of you, we are very fortunate. We don't need to talk to each other with Susan. We're going to be talking with you. So why don't we then dive deeper into the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? Like Olympia, you say you had a mentor and then she spoke up for you. What makes, where's the dividing line? What is a sponsor? What is a mentor? Or what do they have in common? What do you think?
I think both have your best interest at heart and they want you to succeed, but I have no idea. I had no idea what a sponsor was, but now it sounds like it's someone actively advocating for you. Like they know you are great for the job, but they don't keep it in their mind. They're like telling everyone about it.
Yeah. And this is actually also why Olympia, we decided to talk about it, is because not a lot of people know what a sponsor is. We always hear about mentors in the workplace, but we don't hear about sponsors. And it's exactly what you said. It's that they're not keeping it to themselves. They really are, when they can, screaming from the rooftops about you.
Yeah. Anna, any ideas?
Actually, I I may have heard about sponsors, but never paid attention to it because I didn't have a sponsor in my life in that regard. I mean, people who spoke on my behalf, they would know we were never in direct working relationship, so to say, and they were not my mentors. They would just have previous experience with me, or they would be my friends or whoever. But I would say I only once had a mentor, and I never got a single, I don't know, client from her later when I kind of left the corporate nonprofit environment. Nor did I get any jobs due to her, I don't know, interference or recommendation or anything, which is interesting. And then I read August posts on LinkedIn, and that was really beautiful about sponsorship. And that's how, okay, this is something to look into and maybe advise when I work with my clients that they look a bit deeper into this. I don't think we even have enough mentors when it comes to the nonprofit world. And that's a bit sad because there's a lot of knowledge and expertise and those transferable skills that could be shared, and it's not being shared. There's no culture of that, and sponsorship is not that much there. So it was interesting for me to come here and to maybe learn a little bit more and listen to others' experiences with this.
Mm. That is so interesting. In my line of work, I have been responsible for setting up mentorship programs in a couple of companies, and the success was varied. There was one company that they just embraced the whole mentorship idea, and the senior managers were signing up to become mentors, and then they said it's an open culture. Any junior can ask anyone to become a mentor, and it was great until it wasn't. It kind of died out. And then in the same company in a different country, then senior managers decided we're gonna all have mentees. And I remember I was assigned a mentor. When he called me and said he was going to be my mentor, I kind of looked at it and I thought, whoops. So I had nothing. He was not the person I wanted to learn from. So I had nothing kind of like I had the reaction, not the right reaction to the mentorship that I was offered. So it's really interesting how mentorship works. But if we go into the theory and a bit onto, what this book talks about, usually a natural mentorship relationship happens between people who are alike. So a mentor sees something in you that is, oh, this is my younger self, and I would like to be helping this person. And then in theory, the relationship stays between the two people. So the mentor is helping the mentee, and then it's up to the mentee to decide what they're going to do with things. So that's the main sort of difference in there. Both mentors and sponsors would give you feedback, would support you in your development and so on, but mentor will stay in the private relationship with you. A sponsor, on the other hand, is not necessarily someone who's like you. Very often a sponsor is someone who's different to you. And it's even better if they are, and it's okay, because what sponsors are doing, they are active. They're playing an active role of developing proteges around themselves because it's beneficial for them. Because proteges are speaking up for them as well. They're mentioning their name, and then the sponsor obviously gives you feedback, tells you what to do and so on, but brings projects your way to help you shine, speaks up your name if there's a talent review and so on, and then sort of actively talking about you. That's the difference, right? And that's why finding a sponsor is almost like a strategic step for a protege. But as well as for a senior manager, finding a protege is a strategic step. So that's the difference. Does it make sense?
Oh.
And we were thinking, you were ahead of me, Anna, because we were thinking of sort of sharing stories of how we had sponsors, or what how it worked in our life. Maybe I'll pass it on to Susan. See, maybe you have a story to share, and to see how these elements of mentor versus sponsor play out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of these things is that it's more natural or easier to, or that it seems like on the surface, to get a mentor because it's someone maybe similar or somehow clicks and connects with you. So I'd had a lot of these on and off. But really, I notice what makes a difference is when you have that sponsor. And in one of my early on roles in my professional career, I was having someone that was constantly giving me and bringing me in on interesting projects. It happened to be, the sponsor happened to be one of the people I reported to. But really what it was is that they really gave me this opportunity to rise to the occasion, to prove myself. And in return, of course, I was showing my worth as their protege, to be there and to help them with these projects. I was able to do a lot of different things and be exposed to a lot of different projects, so that when I ended up leaving this role, I was, I think, way more advanced than my peers that were even on the same team, if not people in other companies as well with the same job title, because I was trusted and given so many opportunities. So I wasn't able to grow in that role, which is why I left. But I was even encouraged by the sponsor in the company that there was no way to grow. And she also encouraged, as similar as a mentor would, that leave if you need to further grow. But I was given the opportunity already to grow through that. Yeah.
That's really fortunate. Yeah. And as I said in my example that I published on LinkedIn very recently, when I was sponsored, I didn't know that was the name because it was a long time ago, right? I mean, it all started probably in 2006. I mean, no one was calling it that way. But yeah, there was this person, a senior manager, who constantly he was always in touch with all the junior managers and looking what they do. And it's really interesting. It's a two-way street. They are in touch with you, but you need to be in touch with them. It's in after the book club, we came up with this one word, intentionality. So it's like you are also, as a protege, you are working to show up. And you're working to tell people, not necessarily your line manager, but the wider range of senior stakeholders, you're working on showing up for them and sharing the project, asking for advice and so on. That's the first step, how you pre-built that moment of asking someone to be your sponsor. So yeah, my sponsor was just keeping in touch, and he constantly knew what I was doing. I joined one of the projects that he was in charge of. I really didn't have time, but I was interested and excited. So I was delivering on that project, and that's how he knew me. And when the talent review came up, huge European division of an organization, you don't know everyone. But then when the senior, gray-haired boys get together and they discuss, if your name is known, then there's a better chance to be promoted. Not it's just a matter of life. So he said, yeah, I know Olga, and that's how I ended up being in London, and obviously felt that I needed to deliver, and I continued being in touch with him. And then little by little, he would tell me, oh, did you know there's an information and consultation going on? I hear that people want you to be an employee rep. And I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about it. He says, well, you'll find out. But look at it another way. You're going to be in consultation with the senior management. They're going to see your style. They're going to see how you are. It can be a setup, right? Because if I couldn't do it, I would have failed. But he trusted in me and he supported me. And sure enough, he tried to build my visibility and so on. On the other hand, then, we're kind of jumping backwards and forwards. I didn't mind helping him out with like the new technology coming up and those things to do. So it was almost like reverse mentoring for him. And it went backwards and forwards. But now when I look back, what he was doing, he was trying me out in different projects so that he knew when the time came, and he was putting a team together. He was global head of corporate affairs in supply chain. He needed someone in Europe. So he recommended me for that role because he knew I would be on his team and I would be delivering. And I always thought that I was amazingly lucky to have him. But then when I read the book, I realized, hang on a second, it was a two-way street because I was constantly delivering. Like he would come in and say, oh, we're having big restructuring. We need a change comms manager. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here. That's really interesting. I did it naturally. But if we were to label it, by the book theory, it is showing up for your sponsor. He needed someone to rely on, and I was there. So I would say this is, if I were to write a book on what he's done, I would have been very famous because I would be, the book would come up earlier than this one that came out later. It was amazing, and I think it just happened. He was in the lead. He was in the lead about being my sponsor. However, I was active enough to be noticed. So that's my journey.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too, is sponsorships can happen more organically, like you've mentioned, and we don't necessarily even have a word for it or realize. But you as someone being sponsored have to be open to it when it comes and when it arrives. I think the thing for me when it comes to sponsorship is it may or may not have happened to people in their career, but what we do notice is that often people get further faster with sponsorship, because if you're relying uniquely on merit, not everyone sees what you do in your job. Not everyone sees how much you put in, how much dedication you have, or everything that you're even touching, because it might not be under your job scope, your job title, but you're helping a colleague with XYZ, or then you're a representative on a certain internal committee. So it's really important, and it can be a bit hard to brag about yourself, especially for a lot of women. It can be hard to brag about yourself. And that's why sponsorship is so key, because these people are calling attention to what you're involved in, what you're doing, what you're capable of. And often these relationships can put you even in the next step, looking at a promotion.
Yeah.
Let's reverse it. Let's chat a little bit about sponsorship. Is not a comfortable word. Sponsor is not a comfortable word, right? So to approach someone and to say, will you be my sponsor, is probably not the way to do it, right? So we keep the word sponsor in our head. But even to approach someone to have a conversation about it without naming the word is difficult. Let's have a quick sort of exchange of ideas. What makes it beneficial for the sponsor to have a protege? What are they gaining so that, you know, we can use this information when we look for a sponsor next time, sort of to help us understand we're not begging, because they are gaining something as well. So what are they gaining? What are the sponsors gaining?
They're gaining a lot, aren't they? First of all, they can delegate a lot. There are a lot of things they don't have to do themselves. And if you're good, they then kind of, there's a lot of this, particularly for women historically, right? Where men would sort of be their sponsors, but they would not, because women will do all the hard work and then would not get recognition. But they would be promised something in the end. But it's not just women, but more women than men. And then it's kind of sponsorship, but just a promise of sponsorship. So a sponsor definitely gets the work done, and then they can shine if the project is successful. They will give you credit, but it's still their project, right? So they are in the spotlight mostly. But then also doing good for other people, it pleases the ego. So it's nice to be nice. It's nice to be changing somebody's life. It feels good. I mean, you have to really be a psychopath not to enjoy
Not
that.
to like
Yeah, exactly. So they're gaining a lot, I think. And also, because if they move from one department to another or one branch to another, and they can take you with you, then they have a team there in a new place. They have somebody they can trust. And so it means a lot. So if there is a team there that doesn't like them or anything, they have at least one person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Anna. That's so beautiful. There's a lot that sponsors gain. Olympia, do you have anything else to add?
I just wanted to piggyback on what Anna just shared. I think you get a lot of peace of mind just by knowing that you can trust someone. And if you have a protege, then that means you also trust them to do the job. And it feels good to be nice to other people, to know that you're supporting someone, but also more selfish. Like when some of your other folks need someone, you can say, actually, I can think of someone who can help you. And now you feel useful to your protege, and you feel useful to other people.
The other person. That's very true. And also, Anna, as you're saying, they help you with your work, because even though you're not reporting to them as a protege, senior people have a lot of other projects that they build their visibility by and so on. A lot of times there might be like women's club, discussion club, or I don't know, like organizing a race and so on. And they need help there. Even helping them with those projects is showing to them the dedication and so on, helping them indeed. They're shining, they're mentioning your name. And another interesting thing, and I knew my sponsor did it, but when I read it in the book, I'm like, this is what he was doing. I think he was doing it subconsciously. But anyway, he was a fairly senior person in the organization, and he had the reputation of always knowing what's going on in the trenches. How did he know that? He had meetings with his proteges, and they were talking to him. So that's a way for him to know what's going on in the organization, because he's very senior. People don't talk to him usually, but that's his little tentacles, that he spreads in the organization and keeps his hand on the pulse. how else can you get it, right? So they're gaining quite a lot, provided you are sharing as a protege.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's as I said, I was reading the book and now I was going like, no, now it's making sense. Susan, do you have anything to add on, like what's the benefit for the sponsor?
Oh, I think there's tons, which I think is and that's what we tend to think of when you think of mentors, that it's more of a one-way street versus looking at a sponsor where it's actually very beneficial. Similar to peace of mind, it's the reliability. That person knows that that something's going to be taken care of because that person is reliable. They know that they can rely on them. And I think as well, what we see with people that are doing sponsorships is that they're kind of molding even a team, or even depending how influential someone is. By sponsoring, they're kind of creating even a company culture of what they want and what they want to see and how people think and feel within that company. And so it has massive power, because they're having an impact on these people, and in turn the company is gaining.
I'm gonna throw a curveball in. A lot of times sponsorship has sort of questions around it, ethical questions. Is it ethical to sponsor someone? What do you think?
I'm kind of, again, as a person who for who cold sales don't work at all, and as a person who has been working in an environment when even if there's competition, a winner is always known to the jury anyway. I don't think it's more unethical than anywhere else, because even if there is a competition, we're just as human beings, we tend to gravitate towards those we know. It's in this ancient brain. These are people we know. They're not dangerous. They're not enemies. I mean, grounded, that is another matter. But still, we tend to gravitate to what we know and who we know. And so it's only natural. And again, you may have a lot of talents in an organization, but nobody would see them if you don't show up proactively, or you are not lucky enough to be noticed at least once by somebody at the decision-making level. So it's just the way of life. Pure meritocracy, I don't think it's working. Just because how we are wired and how difficult it is to compare the merits. Sometimes the merits would be the same, right? But we would still gravitate towards somebody we know. It just how it happens. So I don't think, I mean, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just how things are. And so sponsorship is not any worse or better for that matter.
That is very wisely put. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the ethical aspect of sponsorship?
I think Anna said already a lot. If you asked me 5 years ago, I would have had a totally different answer, because I was very much into this work hard game. But now it's like work hard, but also work smart and people smart. And like Anna said, all things being equal, performance and merit, we still want to work with people whom we like, or we feel, trust. And it's just how it is.
Susan, remember on the book club, we had one very experienced senior manager who has sponsored a lot of people. And he shared an interesting viewpoint as well. He said, I don't think it's unethical. I'm not doing it for myself. I am doing it for the organization. Because I am helping prominent talent to become even better and to help me to deliver even better. So he says, like, if you look at it from this point of view, I'm not doing anything unethical. And that was like, wow.
Yeah. A different viewpoint, because this is something I struggled with. Is this unethical if I'm, sponsoring someone, if I'm speaking up for someone, because there could be someone else who is as equally qualified or valuable, but I've now honed in and focused on this person. But it's also, I realize that, yeah, in a utopian society, it would be great that everyone could get to higher roles and everyone could climb a ladder and everyone could get the promotion that they want. But in our society, it's just not so. And that doesn't mean that I cannot help one person get there. With this idea of it maybe not being ethical to help one, but not help someone else. One is still one. It's still a number. It's still making a difference. And even then, it helps in return. Me as a sponsor, it still helps me in return. So it's also maybe doing the best for myself, whereas doing something good for someone else. So how could that, going back to what this person said in the book club, going back to this, how is that necessarily really so unethical?
And also, we're only human, aren't we? So we can't know about everyone. And sponsorship is a two-way street. So we can't constantly going out proactively and looking for everyone, the up and coming, the hardworking and so on. They need to come and show up to us, so that it is a two-way street.
Yeah. I've said that that's just the way things are, and whenever I say something like that, I'm just thinking, okay, just because things are the way they are, do they have to be like that, or should we change them? And here, I don't have an answer to this. I mean, you really, to climb the corporate ladder, so to say, you have to show up. You have to be proactive. You have to make yourself noticeable again, because you need to show initiative before you are chosen for a role. You need to kind of send a signal that, yeah, I can do it. I can do this and I can do that. And Olga, what you were saying, it was precisely that, right? You just show up and say, yeah, that's interesting. I can do that. So, and I mean, yes, there would be other talents, but if you don't raise your hand and say, yeah, that's interesting, and I can do that, would anybody know? And that's, I mean, it's a deeper problem how to show up for yourself. But still, I mean, then you have to choose where you want to be. Do you want to be promoted in an environment when you just want to sit quietly and not express yourself? You won't survive higher up. It would be very difficult. Maybe you will be unhappy at that. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's a kind of it's very I don't know, unclear in my mind what is a better approach here.
It's very fuzzy, but hey, it is life, right? Life is fuzzy.
Yeah.
Olympia.
I feel it doesn't really feel right to have a black and white answer to this one. Is it ethical or not to have a sponsor? But another extra argument for why it's good to, to have this and why it's ethical. It's an example for therapy. Maybe you're familiar with the statistics. I don't have the numbers, but it's like the number one predictor of therapy success. It's not the degrees of your therapist, it's not the approach, psychoanalysis, CBT, whatnot, but it's the relationship that you have between the therapist and the patient. And if we all want things to work out, and if we are truly honest about this intention, then, you know, we take the road that helps that intention.
Mm,
Oh, that's so beautiful.
it's a really good connection. I think, yeah, intentionality and being intentional about the relationship and having this outcome of, yeah, just wanting things to work out and succeed.
Yeah. Let's brainstorm very quickly on techniques. What can a person do if they want someone to become their sponsor? How do you don't ask. How do you ask without asking?
Mm. Asking to work with the person more, kind of. I don't know. I admire what you do, stuff like that. I want to learn from you. And it's a little bit like mentorship approach, right? I want to learn from you, but then also be more active and proactive and kind of wiggle your way in, sort of.
Some time ago, I read this article that was a bit controversial, or not. The title was "Stop romanticizing mentorship or feedback." I don't know what it was. You might be already getting it. And now that we talk about it, I realize, oh, I did have some sponsors along the way, but I never had a word for that, for what they were doing. And now in my particular context, I don't know if I have a sponsor or not, but I was thinking one way to get value from someone is to also offer value. So maybe ask in the words that are appropriate to you, like, how can I help you? What can I take off your plate? And giving before getting something, but it's easier to say in theory, but I guess sometimes we just want this shorter road, this shortcut to get their sponsorship.
Mm.
The Olympia, before you know it, it's like me reading this book and going like, oh, Phil, that's what you were doing. So before you know it, you'll see that you have a number of warm leads on sponsors to be. Susan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I noticed when I got sponsors, it was really because I was always really way more excited in a job, and I was always taking on way too much work. So I would often go and say that I wanted another challenge. And by kind of showing up and being eager about it, and then being given small things as a chance to prove myself and rising to the occasion, it kind of developed into a natural sponsorship role by me coming forward first to say, hey, I want to be put on more projects, or hey, can I be involved in this particular thing?
You know, my favorite sponsor, Phil, worked very closely with my line manager then. And after a year of being on an expat contract in London, I kind of set up the system that I needed to set up. And second year, I was free. I had more free time. And expat contracts pay you really good money, and and so on. So I always felt like they're paying me too much. I'm not doing much. So I came to my boss and I said, do you know what? You're paying me too much for me not doing enough. Is there another project? Because he said in the beginning, he thought I was saying like, cut my salary, cut the expat benefits. But and apparently he was actually my second sponsor as well, just for doing this. And from the experience of one of my clients, when she read the book, she came back and she said, oh, I didn't realize it was that easy. So she identified senior people in the organization strategically, started meeting with them, and then she said, look, I can see you're working on this and this. And the client worked with data quite a lot. And she said, this is a really interesting project. I want to understand more about it. Do you mind if I join the project? What I'll do, I'll add a little bit sort of a data point of view onto it. It was a win-win, right? She was shining on the project, delivering to the sponsor, and the sponsor later helped her out. But before we close down, there's one important thing that I wanted to say that reminded me about my two sponsors. It's very important to be strategic about placing the sponsors and having 2+1. So 2 in your organization, 1 in your industry. So you're covering all the bases. What happened to me, and the story has a sad ending. My main sponsor, Phil, got diagnosed with 4 types of cancer, 2 of them in the 3rd stage. And he pretty much left work a week after he was diagnosed. And he was grooming me to be his replacement at the global role. My other sponsor, who I said, you're paying me too much, retired at the same time with Phil. And at the same time, big restructuring came in, and I found myself with no one to speak my name up at the table, and I had a redundancy. So that's a sad story of how you can lose your sponsors and lose your support. So that's another thing very important to have, sort of to constantly have your sponsors strategically positioned.
But looking back, I mean, you couldn't have known, right?
Oh,
I mean, the cancer. Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
no.
No. So it's kind of, yeah, it's
It
important.
was just
Yeah.
a coincidence that this
Yeah.
happened, but a good reminder, because sometimes sponsors do fall out with the senior leadership and they leave and so on. So it's better to sort of to spread the risks as well throughout. Yeah. Ladies, this is such a wonderful conversation. Why
Yeah.
don't we go around the room and each one kind of shares after this conversation, what are you taking away, sort of one thing that you'll do differently now because of this conversation?
I have a dilemma because on the one hand, sponsorship feels more reachable than ever because I now know more about it and I can actively offer more help strategically. But on the other hand, it feels like sponsorship is so much easier to get in a corporate environment. So for some context, I work in a small startup. We are under 20 people. So it's like my manager may or may not be my sponsor. Is there a ceiling? And if yes, how can I, diversify? And luckily you mentioned getting a sponsor in your industry. And I have no clue how to do that yet. But maybe do a brainstorming, a silent brainstorming after this session with ways I can do that, small steps I can take.
Yeah. Excellent next steps.
Yeah, interesting about sponsor in the industry. There might also be competitors. So it's important not to find yourself in a situation of split loyalty, where you would have to kind of hide one sponsor from the other sponsor, and not to get entangled into this cobweb game industry competition. But I'm genuinely one thing I would do differently, I don't know, but I quite like the idea, and I'm thinking again, I always go big in my mind, like we need a culture. We need to build a culture where mentorship is important and is sought from from below going up and from up going down. And the same with sponsorship and like taking mentorship one step further in a way, or kind of approaching it differently. And again, I'm thinking more about nonprofits where talent is often, but I think it incorporated might be the same a bit, where you need talent around, objectively, you need talent around you to help your company, to help your organization thrive. Yet many people don't want to surround themselves by talent because they fear being replaced by talent. And
Mm.
it's kind of, I've seen it so much in the nonprofit world. And this whole idea of sponsorship is a different story because you need to open up to talent, and you need to understand that, yeah, I might be replaced, but still it's beneficial for that person, for myself, and for the organization, for the cause that we're working for. So kind of it's again, not one thought, but
Mm.
a lot of thoughts in my head about this.
Interesting. Do you know what Phil, my favorite Phil, always said? He would always say, I'm not that smart. I just know how to hire people who are smarter than me and make them work for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
We lost Olympia, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, we're a bit over time, so
Yeah. Right. Well, what I'm going to do differently, and this is totally unrelated to the subject, but I have so enjoyed this type of conversation, Susan, when we had people on the screen. I take it up on myself to, you and I will talk and maybe see how we can do more of this, because I so enjoyed today.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to interact and have conversations.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. I think Olympia had to run. I'm sure, Anna, you need to run too, but thank you so much for the
Thank
contribution.
you. It was a very interesting conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us, really.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you again. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Right. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Mm.
This was wonderful.
Yeah, it's really